Okay, guys, I'm going to sneak up from behind. Oh, god damn it. All right, guys, there he is. Shoot. Oh, shit. Guys, communicate. Where is he? Guys, where is he? Fuck. I'm down. Again, I'm down. Never mind. Forget it. Like most people these days, I decided it might be a good idea to try and make a living from Twitch streaming video games. I kept dying over and over. I couldn't get the coordination I needed. These people just seemed to be on a completely different level. No matter how much practice I put in, I just couldn't get good. Until I got Sheath Underwear. Their dual pouch technology separates my package, allowing for better circulation, better movement. It has upped my game tremendously. I'm now in the Call of Duty Championship Finals. Go to sheathunderwear.com, use my promo code RRBG, and save 20% to get yourself a pair of Sheath Underwear and get good. Real quick, bit of business. I gotta thank our mutual friend, Alex, formerly of Orange Amps.
He's formerly of Orange Amps. I hadn't heard.
Yeah. He is no longer with Orange Amps, but he is now with Killcliff. And thank you for sending me this stuff, man. It's awesome. I really appreciate it. But yeah, let's do a little how you doing. Welcome to the RRBG podcast. I am here with Aaron Beam of Red Fang. I was going to say co-founder of Health South and the company's first CFO, which is what I got when I first Googled it.
That's my alter ego. And the older I get, the more he and I look almost indistinguishable from each other.
Oh, man. How you doing, man? How are things? How's the pandemic treating you? I know that the band's been busy, but how about yourself personally?
I have also been quite busy. Because we didn't really tour so much in 2019, a few of us needed to start looking for side hustles for the first time since Red Fang actually started being a job for us. Okay. So I actually went back to work doing production stuff for the puppet department on a stop motion animation movie in Portland. So I've actually been, and I'm wrapping that up in about 2 more weeks, which is just about perfect timing since the record's coming out. But yeah, I've been busy working on spreadsheets basically since the start of the pandemic.
Okay. So not a lot of downtime, not a lot of, what most Americans did, which was just drink themselves silly.
Oh, no, I did that also.
Okay.
I did simultaneous.
But I'm excited about the new album, man. I'm really stoked. The new song is great, Arrows, and that's also it's the name of the album too, right?
Yes, for the first time ever, we did the weird thing of actually having the album named after a song on the same record instead of naming it after a song on a different record, which is what we normally do.
Just gotta throw people off a little bit, a little bit.
Throw ourselves off.
Yeah. Then the video is obviously on par with all of the incredible videos you guys put out. I would actually call this one a sequel to Wires. Is that what you would?
That's fair.
That's fair?
Yeah, absolutely. And it came out like almost exactly 10 years to the day.
Wow.
It was like within a couple of weeks of the 10-year anniversary of the Wires. Maybe not the Wires video, but at least of that record.
Okay. So what was the what was the idea of doing like a sequel type scenario? Because it starts off the same with you guys hanging out in the living room and talking about a check coming in and then proceeding into doing some crazy shit on camera.
Yeah.
How did that come about?
Well, I think the idea was basically it was Whitey who does all of our videos. He had the idea of having us destroy stuff with a katana because he'd seen some YouTube channels of kids just like slow motion slashing through stuff with katanas. So he thought it'd be funny for us to do that, but he is self-aware enough to know that people would just immediately say, oh, yet another video where they're destroying stuff. And so he just got ahead of it and decided to reference Wires in the video to head off all those criticisms of the past. But it actually ended up being, I think it made it funnier because of, all the call outs to that video and but us being sort of like fake unaware of the repetitiveness of it.
Yeah, like, oh, did we do this already? It's like,
Right.
you're so busy drinking PBRs that it could, I mean, it's totally something that could happen. Like, you're just like,
Yeah.
I don't remember doing that. All right,
Yeah.
just do it. I've always praised your videos. Like, every time I have people over the house, I'm and they're like, put something on. I'll throw on a Red Fang video because they're all so great. They're also hilarious and true to what I guess the world is that you live in. Like, the video, I forget the name of the video itself. I'm trying to think the one that you're on tour and like you're kind of
Cut it short is the
cut
song.
it short. There we go. Yeah. And you're focusing on like the little like the annoying things of your bandmates. Like. I'm like, that's exactly how. That's what tour is. You talk to regular people. They're like, oh, tour must be so awesome. Like, no, it's a slowly starting to hate your band members. That's what tour is.
Yeah, exactly. And actually, just the other day, I think it was I don't know if Foo Fighters or Dave Grohl. Somebody posted a similar. It was basically just like a call out to. One aspect of being on tour being that you end up just smelling each other's farts all the time.
Yep, pretty much.
And they used a little clip from that video because it is so universal.
Yeah, it's on point. No one's ever, I think, represented it that well. I mean, now let me ask you about it because I saw you guys, I think, tweet or I saw you guys social media about the Dave Grohl call out. Like, how is that? How did you feel when you saw that happening? Do you care about like, a rock star kind of, calling us out? Like, is that life changing anyway?
No, I mean, it's definitely cool and it's very flattering. That's, I think, almost more a testament to, that's more, again, like Whitey, our video director, he's the one who comes up with all those ideas and the fact that he can pull it off and make it so universal. It's a compliment to him. We had actually, to pull the curtain back a little bit, we had actually been in contact with Dave Grohl and his team about having some sort of inclusion into that whole series. So we knew something. We were surprised to see a full-on clip from the video included, and it was pretty awesome. Nice. We didn't know that they were going to go that far, but it was not as much of a surprise on our end as maybe,
Okay.
Sometimes like, when we get calls from friends of ours who are like, hey, I'm at this hockey game and they're playing your song over the loudspeakers. That's a bigger sort of like, whoa, that's pretty cool. I didn't expect that at all. Because you're not warned about that stuff.
Sure. Yeah. That's what I thought the approach was with this. Like, I thought it was kind of like you guys found out when it was out instead of like, having you have spoken about it at least. Yeah.
Well, them including the video, we didn't know that they were going to do that. That was a surprise.
Well, it's awesome. I mean, I know that there is that like air of, you don't want to be a punisher and you're kind of like, but it's exciting when you see stuff like that happen because obviously, I mean, Red Fang's been around for a long time and you guys are rock stars in my eyes, but there's like tiers to this, and obviously Dave Grohl being at somewhere up the top somewhere.
Yeah, he's at the top. I mean, when you can sell at Wembley Stadium, you are at the top. You can't go higher than that.
Yeah, that's WrestleMania attendance numbers.
Maybe all of the WrestleManias.
Yeah, that's ridiculous.
Yeah.
So is there, aside from the Dave Grohls, I mean, is there somebody, like, do you punish anyone when you're on the road? Like if you meet someone, does that even affect you?
Yeah. It's fewer and farther between. I mean, with Dave Grohl as big of a star as he is, he's like a super friendly, approachable guy.
Good guy, Dave, as they say.
Yeah. And, some of his crew actually lives in Portland. So we're friends with.
That's cool.
One of his guitar techs. And so it's just like it. But the one that it was like, I just afterwards, I was like, and even in the moment, I was like, God, what am I doing? We had just flown to Australia to do our first tour over there. We were the first band out of, I think, 55 bands were playing on this festival. And we were literally the first band to play. We started at, I think, 11:30 a.m. was our set time.
Oof. That's a rough setup.
Yeah, it's a little early.
Yeah.
But anyway, we flew out and got there like 2 nights before, maybe the night before the show. So we're just like super jet lagged, and Metallica was throwing a barbecue for all of the bands playing, like a pre-game get to know you kind of thing. Okay. And we had met James Hetfield just for a second, like at the Orion Music and More festival they held in Atlantic City. So I saw Brian and John were standing and talking to James Hetfield, and I was like, this is my chance. I can go, and I like ran over him, just like super jet lagged, and probably had a couple beers, and just started basically yelling at him about what tour was like in the beginning for those guys, and hopefully it all came out across okay, and I wasn't too bad, but I could tell that I was a little bit more excited than maybe I meant to be.
Yeah.
But that's the last time that happened.
It's such a weird thing, man. I've always tried to analyze that. It's been a point of interest for me, to the point where I wanted to write a book about it and start a whole series of like, let me help people not punish other people. Because it's crazy. Yeah. And I mean, I'm obviously punished people relentlessly in the past, and to this day, I'm sure I would probably punish someone if I think if I ran into like Trent Reznor in public, I'd probably seize up, like,
sure.
Yeah. But it's such an interesting thing, like how we, I guess, elevate certain people to where your body just starts to act in ways that you're not even in control of.
Absolutely. That's a good way of describing it too.
Yeah.
And so I don't know, like on that level, I don't know how you would prevent that. I mean, I guess you'd have to be some sort of like high level Buddhist monk or something to be able to exactly control your autonomous systems in your body. But yeah, it's a weird thing, because I don't know if it's even necessarily about being in this world, but or if it's something else, because I was just reflecting on it while you were talking about Trent Reznor. I realized that, when I think I was 17 or something like that, and went and saw Nirvana play. It was before, I'm pretty old, so it was a long time ago. It was before Nevermind came out, and they're already getting like pretty popular. Dave Grohl was playing in the band at that point. I think it was like it was at the Gothic Theater in Denver. So it was, it was like sold out 1,000 people or whatever. But I just was like, went up and said, hey, Kurt, that was great. Whatever. Like, I just wasn't shy about saying hi to people in the band. And I didn't have that sort of same physical sensation of just like freaking out. It was just like, what's up? I also play music, and you guys were awesome. And I didn't like take a bunch of his time. I just talked to him for a second or whatever. So, cause that, thinking about it, that's one of those guys that I feel like I would find myself punishing, and yet I didn't. So I don't really know what it is. But bottom line being, I think that there's a certain point at which it is kind of beyond your control, unless you're a Zen master.
Yeah, man. I mean, I pride myself in that ability to like be able to meet people and hang out and be cool about it. Like, just, hey, nice to meet you. Great. Let's do stuff. Like when I met you guys, I mean, that was I met you at Psycho. I don't know if you even remember. We talked underneath. You
look super familiar, and your name sounds familiar. So yeah, I was trying to figure out what it was.
Yeah. We did Psycho, I think like in 2018 or 19. I don't remember the year, but we hung out in the merch area of all places is where they set me up. They're like, yeah, just do it here. I'm like, but there's so many people talking. This is the worst area to do this, but okay.
Yeah.
But it was cool because it was just like I didn't move at all. Like you came in and you left, and it was like that all day. I was there for 8 hours of just people coming in, Andrew WK, and it gets to the point where I'm just numb, and I'm all right. Hey, nice to meet you. Come sit down. Like, hurry up. Let's get this done.
Yeah. But
there is times where even myself, like I think it was the last person I punished was probably Adam Jones from Tool. And it was, and I apologized after because I felt so bad. Like he showed up, I saw him at a convention, and I kind of had the moment where I froze up, and I'm like, I like what you do.
right.
And then we parted ways, and then I ran into him again later at that convention, and I had like, it wasn't as impactful. I was just kind of like, hey, sorry about earlier. I just kind of, I don't know what happened. I apologize for that. But
yeah. Well, and guys like that, on that level, they're probably pretty used to it, so they're kind of forgiving as well.
Yeah. So I wanted to ask you about the new album, this writing process for this album. Was it during the pandemic, or was this something you were working on before, and you kind of just spent the pandemic working on, what you were saying, the production stuff, and then you kind of, as the pandemic started cycling out, like, how did that work out for you guys?
Well, that's, I guess, one of the things that's kind of confusing about the timing of this release, because we actually originally intended to put this record out on May 29th of 2020.
There you go.
And it was completely done. We were done with our part in December of 2019.
Wow. Okay.
So, and it kind of worked out for the best in some ways, because all of the production stuff was also already finished, I think, by March of last year.
So right as the pandemic started.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so it was like, cool, our record's done. Let's being pressed. Oh crap. Actually, well, I guess tours are going to be canceled. So it was essentially just like, once we realized tours were going to be canceled, and since we're one of those bands that survives off of tour, we just made the decision to postpone the release until it felt like there was a chance that within at least 6 months of putting the record out, we'd be able to go and at least play some shows. And we'll see if that was a good idea or not. I mean, there's no way to really know. You don't have a control situation, but yeah, there was nothing happened during the pandemic except for we got depressed about not being able to play.
Okay. All right. Yeah, I was wondering that, because I have seen some bands, use that time to write and come out with a new album, and it kind of, it's a little scary, because I'm like, well, what are you going to talk about? You're going to write songs about how you're chilling at home watching Netflix with your wife, like? Yeah,
exactly. Yeah, and it's kind of funny, because a lot of the interview questions kind of early on were clearly assuming that we'd written a lot of the record during the pandemic, which totally makes sense. Yeah. I think partly just because it sounds so dark, it feels like, but ultimately, kind of lyrically and thematically, all of our records are kind of dark,
Yeah.
Our videos are lighthearted, but the music has always been sort of, at least for Brian and me, kind of our outlet of those sorts of feelings. But at the time, it was like, we were writing a lot of that in the summer and fall of 2019. And there was a lot of, there's plenty of other stuff to be dark about before the pandemic started. So
sure. I don't know what you're talking about. I mean, we were at our greatest point.
Exactly. As a country and as a world.
Yeah.
But yeah, my wife's band, they just wrapped up a record that they totally wrote and recorded during the pandemic, but there's just a bunch of reasons why it was not really feasible for us to get together. And I think that we also have a thing of, after finishing a record, it's just, we just finished it right before the pandemic started. And so that kind of like energy for that had sort of, we just,
you were
put
done.
So much energy and effort into that it was like our bodies and minds were gearing up for tour, and then trying to switch it into songwriting mode that quickly just wasn't going to happen.
Yeah, I hear you. And it's funny you mentioned that the music itself is darker. I've only heard Arrows so far. But
yeah, that one doesn't sound as dark musically, but or maybe it does.
It has the thing about your music that I appreciate is that it does have that layer of darkness that can touch me, like right here, and I'm just like, oh, I feel that, like all the struggles I've gone through, but it's also lighthearted enough to where you want to party,
right?
I want to party about how shitty things are.
Yeah. Well, and it's also, I think that, that's part of our personalities, and probably most humans, that the reality is not that like everything is always one way.
Yeah.
You know, that you're just like, oh, I'm just a happy person and I'm at like a level 6 all the time.
Yeah.
You know, that there's like a combination of, you know, it's super sad that we're at this funeral, but also something funny is happening right now, you know, so, or like maybe whatever, like,
Yeah.
I think that we at least we're trying to incorporate a sense of, I wouldn't say sense of humor, but just like
Levity.
let's keep a little perspective.
Yeah.
Perspective. I think on, you know, even if shit does feel pretty gnarly, that it's not that big of a deal.
Yeah. It could be worse.
Yeah.
And so the music's dark, but I saw like the artwork is super bright and colorful, which I like. My wife hates super bright, colorful things like highlighter colors and stuff, but I love. I know, right? And I love it. I think I brought home a hat once from a brewery, and it had like 10 different super bright colors, and she's like, "That's the worst thing I've ever seen. Take it off." And I'm like, "No, I love it. I'm from the '90s. I'm from the '80s, but you know, my formative years were the '90s, where everything was super colorful."
Yeah, neon and yeah.
Black light, you know, black light posters, you know.
Yeah.
So it's cool to have that contrast, man. Because like you said, I honestly, if I meet someone who is always happy, everything's great, the first thought in my brain is, what's wrong with you?
Exactly. Yeah, I know. I knew you were going to say that. I knew you were going to say that.
What happened? Who hurt you?
What are you hiding?
What are you hiding? How many people have you killed?
Yeah.
So, you know, going back to the videos and how great they are, like you have a natural, all four of you have a natural, I don't know, you look like actors in a comedy. You know what I mean? Like you act well.
You're saying we're funny looking.
You're funny looking. You're clowns. No, I'm kidding. No, I'm just saying, like you when I see you on screen, it feels natural as opposed to like, oh, that's just a band that's being filmed. I feel like you guys have movies that I can go watch. You know what I mean? Has that ever happened? Like, have you thought about potentially, you know, since you've done all these comedy videos, like maybe doing a comedy film or something like that?
Not really. I mean, because the only reason why that's the case, the thing that you're talking about, is because our director is so good. Like the ideas aren't ultimately ours. We contribute some, and yeah, that's us on camera. But oftentimes it's like you're seeing the 15th take, and we have to be, you know, it's like, no. You have to stop making that face. Let me show you again. Do it like this. And it's like, okay. And we actually were just kind of reminiscing about working with Brian Posehn and Fred Armisen, that both of those guys, especially in the Fred Armisen case, because we had done a couple of videos and I started at least thinking like, you know, I'm actually, maybe I'm not so bad at acting. It's kind of like I've done it a few times and starting to get to the point where I can sort of communicate some stuff on screen. And then just sitting across from him while Whitey was giving him direction, it's like completely different. You know, I was like, oh, no. I thought I had gotten up to like a 5 or a 6, and I was like, no, I'm at like a 1.2. And, you know, it's just like I barely went up at all from basically completely incapable to just barely capable. Yeah,
but I mean, you can't put yourself in that situation. Like I do that sometimes myself. You know, I was in a band for 10 years, and sometimes I'll see a musician on stage, and I'm just like, why am I doing this? Why am I wasting my time? Like, obviously they got it down, you know. So you can't.
Yeah, that's a good point, because that's not the. I mean, I never take that approach as a musician at all. I mean, I'd never think about it doesn't matter to me that there are musicians who are far better technically than me than I will ever be, because I'm perfectly comfortable with the level of musicianship that I'm capable of at this point, and it works. You know.
Yeah.
That's a good point. Yeah, I'm a great actor. Hollywood.
Look, I totally look from an outsider's perspective. I can totally see a film, maybe even directed by Whitey and
Yeah.
in collaboration with Brian and Armisen, like just a Red Fang film of following you guys on tour and crazy hijinks, similar to in the vein of all of the videos you guys have done. I can see that happening.
I think I like it. I think it's a good idea. Like just maybe even a series of. Did you see that? I just saw the Eric Andre movie.
Oh, dude.
Like a week and a half ago.
Yeah.
It was so good. Like his show is a little bit too uncomfortable for me, but the way that I loved the narrative of the movie and that actually had some like pathos and stuff. It was great.
Yeah, no, he's a genius, man. I love that guy. I love the show because I'm a complete insane person. To where when I see somebody like running and screaming and smashing the set, I'm like, yes, that's what I want to do.
Right.
My wife can't watch it. Like I'll show her some. I'm like, you got to see this, and she's like, nope, I can't. It hurts. It hurts to see that. It hurts to see people so uncomfortable. But I love that, and his movie was on point. You know what? I'll tell him to his face. I don't like his stand up. I think he did a stand-up special for Netflix, and I was just kind of like, he's kind of just screaming and making fart noises and vomiting noises.
Right.
But the show,
some people are not meant for stand-up. They're
right.
much better at having stuff written or like putting themselves in a specific scenario.
Yeah, I still love the guy, and like I said, the show's great and the movie's great. But I'd love to see something like that from you guys. I mean, it just makes sense to me. Now that the world seems to be getting back to some kind of normalcy, people are vaccinated and talking about doing tours again. Are you stoked? I mean, I've heard both sides. I've heard people like, I can't wait to get back on the road. And I've also heard people like, I'm not got back to that, playing half empty rooms and living in a van. It's not as appealing now.
Right. Yeah, I've heard that too from quite a few people. I mean, I have no. I think that it was good to have this year and a half or whatever it was to kind of reflect a little bit, because we've been going pretty consistent for 10 years straight.
Yeah.
And my kid is turning 12 pretty soon, and this is the first time that I got to live in the same town as my wife, because she lives 2.5 hours away up in Tacoma. So there's been a lot of really great things, but I also realized that playing music in front of people is essential to my being, and I've been doing it since I was 8 years old. I started taking piano lessons when I was 8 and was performing, recitals or whatever once or twice a year. And I realized at one point I was just having some struggles during this lockdown, and my wife actually kind of slapped some sense into me, and she was like, you have to think about what it is, and the fact that you're not getting to play music with your band. And I was like, more I think about it, it's been 40 years. This is the longest I've gone in 40 years of not playing music in front of anybody. So I'm totally ready to do it. Yeah, it's going to be hard. We're going to be totally out of shape, like show shape.
Yeah.
And, there's going to be some level of the discomfort that's like, oh crap, I forgot about this. And this isn't as rad as I remember.
Yeah.
But I think that just the excitement of being able to do it again is going to outweigh all of any of those sorts of like discomforts, physical discomforts.
For sure. I think so too, man. For you guys, and not to say that your records aren't tremendous as it is, it's very difficult to capture on a record the energy that you guys have at a live show. Like your live shows to me are, and one day I'll watch you. One day I'll see a show from you guys sober, but so I can get the real picture.
I've been sober at a bunch of our shows. No, I know you mean. You mean me will be sober.
I'll be sober, and I can appreciate everything you're doing on a sober level. Because every time I've seen you guys, I saw you guys in Long Beach. I forget the name of the bar. Alex's Bar, maybe.
Alex's Bar. That's what it's called.
Yeah, Alex's Bar, and a pregame.
That was the night that the night that the Dodgers were like. The Dodgers were in the
World Series
final thing. Yeah. And the show got postponed like by 2 hours because everybody in the bar was like, no, shut up, put the TV on.
Yeah, I remember that. I met up with my buddy Jason. We were, I think he manages like Primus and a couple. He invited me out. Actually, he was like, "Hey, Red Fang's playing at Alex's bar." I'm like, "What?" He said, "Yeah, come on out." And we got real shitty in the parking lot waiting for the show to start. And by the time you guys played, I was just in full blast, like mosh, like and then the last time I saw you was at Psycho. And, as I mentioned earlier, I was doing 8-hour shifts of, interviews, and you guys were the last band I saw live because you played super late at in a pool area.
Yeah.
And I remember just walking out like super exhausted, just like dragging my ass and meeting up with some friends. And they're like, Red Fang's about to go on. I'm like, what? And they're like, we're going into the pool. I'm like, yes. I just took everything off and just ran into the pool. And then I realized, like, I'm probably going to catch 20 diseases in here. This is just water splashing.
That's where COVID actually started.
That's where it started. But yeah, there is something about your live shows, energy-wise, that's hard to I guess, capture on a record, right?
Yeah. I mean, so I appreciate that. And yeah, it's something that we've, I don't know what the solution is. Basically what we've tried to do is just embellish the records with other things because there's just something about that, that sort of personal interaction that's just not really possible. I think it's not possible to get at least the thing that we do in a live performance onto a record. Luckily we don't, we're not like jumping around on stage. It's not just about the show, but there is something about, I can recognize it too, that energy of the connection between us and the crowd and whatever just is not there's not a direct translation to recording.
Yeah, and I think it also it lends itself to the style of music because there's certain records, like if you're like a technical prog death metal band, you can listen to it at home because you're kind of like it's almost like math. You just sit there and kind of analyze the breakdown of different notes they're hitting and whatnot. But for Red Fang, it's more of a live kind of party vibe to it, Yeah,
absolutely. And that's kind of like what we were always interested in. And we didn't, when we first started playing together and writing music, we weren't thinking about recordings at all. We were just thinking about what's the most fun live thing that we can do that's fun for us and fun for people to listen to. And we've never really strayed from that into the sort of, we're not really like super talented at writing for recording, if that makes any sense.
Gotcha. You mentioned embellishing the record a little bit. I noticed some synth sounds.
Yeah.
Is there going to be more of that in the rest of the record as well?
Yes. And actually, I guess on that song, you probably can't hear it very well, but one of the other surprises was Chris Funk brought in a couple of friends of his who they actually like, what do you call it? Not transcribed, but they charted out. They charted out string parts. So there's like, there's a tiny bit that you can hear a little bit in the kind of breakdown part of Arrows where there's some strings on there. It's violin and viola.
Okay.
But there's one whole song that is just like covered in that. So that's a little bit of a departure from our normal style.
Okay. All right. And synth too? Like, is there more synth as well?
Yeah. There's synth on quite a few songs. I mean, there's always been keyboards going all the way back to our second EP that we recorded in like 2006. So we've never really been scared of keyboard stuff. And that's one of those ways to just kind of fill things out, make things a little bit more sonically interesting because you don't have the, personal handshake thing that's going on.
Sure, yeah.
And that was why I was so stoked. I'm not trying to name drop, but one of the things that I was so stoked about when we played on Letterman was having Paul Schaefer play organ on that song.
Oh, yeah.
Because it was like, it's like when you have somebody who's as good as he is, who does stuff tastefully and in the right spots and with the right sound, it's awesome. I mean, look at that band, All Them Witches. They have, when their organ is going along with the guitar, it's like it's the perfect combination.
Yeah, man. I love the, especially for like I guess the genre would be what, stoner rock, like,
Sure.
whatever you want to call it. But there is
Yeah.
an element of, when there's keyboards or organs that goes really well with stoner rock for me.
Well, and I think that anyone my age is probably a pretty big, who plays music the way that we do, is probably a pretty big fan of Led Zeppelin, and they never were scared of throwing organs all over everything. So
have you considered bringing somebody in to the band to be like the key guy? Has that been a conversation?
Not like as a permanent member, but we have we kind of have that a little bit with our manager's husband, Roger Manning Jr.
Okay.
Roger Joseph Manning Jr. He's played keyboards on quite a few records now, and he's actually come up and played with us on stage a couple times too.
Oh, nice. Okay.
Yeah.
That's cool. I wanted to, can you go back a little bit? What's it like, what's that experience of playing a late show like that? Because a lot of the times it's hard. Your guys did well, but there's a lot of bands that, like some of my favorite bands, when they end up on those shows, they end up sounding weird. Because it's different.
Well, we
mixing.
lucked out. So, first of all, late show is a pretty bad description. I mean, that's what time it airs.
Right.
But we actually, our load in, I think, was literally like 5:45 a.m.
Jesus.
To get ready for that, because we shot we were on the Friday episode, and so they tape Thursday and Friday all on Thursday, so that the whole crew and everybody involved has a 4-day week, and everybody has 3-day weekends every week. So anyway, so the band that's on second has to load in earlier and do all of their sound checking first. But we really, really lucked out because we'd been we'd been given the advice ahead of time from our buddy Sean, who works with Foo Fighters, who've been on there a bunch of times. He said the crew has been on that show since the 80s. So the number one thing I'll tell you is just say please and thank you. Just be nice to them, and they will take care of you. So that was awesome. I mean, we do that anyway.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's some good advice for all of life. Just be nice.
It's true. And that's just I was like, okay, well, that's not a problem. You're not telling us something that we wouldn't be doing anyway. But it just made, and then I think Paul actually, we had arranged ahead of time that he was going to play with us, and he wanted to rehearse the song quite a few times. So, we had already gone through the song 4 or 5 times. They are so professional. They're like, we want to make sure everything is dialed perfectly. We want to have all of our camera moves. So we want you guys to play through it enough times that we already know exactly what we're going to be doing when we do it live. And I think we'd already run through it 3 or 4, it's one song, and we'd run through it 3 or 4 times. And then Paul Schaefer showed up, and he just wanted to keep rehearsing it over. So we ended up doing it 8 times through the song. So if we couldn't figure out the sound and the performance by that point, then that's totally on us. Sure. But I think that in a lot of cases, because we were, like I said, we were the late act on a Thursday taping, we actually just were lucky that we had the opportunity to spend 2 hours sound checking one song. I don't think that's the case for most people. Yeah. So I think it's so quick of a turnaround that you just you don't have any. There's no chance to really dial everything in the way you need it to.
Sure. Yeah. No, I hear that. And I'm glad, that they do it live too. Cause I did a couple of television, appearances, not for my own music in any way. I was hired to be a keyboardist for, this Latin rock pop female singer that,
nice.
It was just one of those things. My buddy called me and was like, you want to make $150, pretending to play keyboard? And I'm like, yeah, of course I do. That's beer money, man. Let's go.
Right.
But we would show up and they nothing was plugged in. It was all running through the PA, and I was just kind of standing there. I remember taking it professionally too. I sat at home and listened to the song 20 times and like learn how to actually play the parts. And then when I get there, they're like, "Oh, you're not plugged in." I'm like,
oh man.
Okay, I guess I'll just pretend. And then like no one's going to notice that there's no power cord connected to my keyboard.
Yeah. Oh boy.
So I wanted to ask you a couple of like weird ass questions. Like, what are you eating for breakfast these days? Because I'm still eating cereal like a child.
Wait, do you eat it like a child?
Yes.
Do you have like a little tiny plastic spoon and you like make a mess? And
well, no, typically, my wife recently got me to switch back to bowls because I had started eating cereal out of a cup. Because I would just eat.
Oh, no.
I would eat it fast and then just drink the milk and move.
Yeah.
But she got me to go back to bowls, and like now I'm actually like cutting up bananas and making it nice. But I used to be a child. It was like Fruity Pebbles in a glass with milk.
Right. Well, geez, I guess for the last couple months, I've been eating like a piece of toast with peanut butter and half a grapefruit and coffee. Sometimes I eat just like a little oatmeal bar or something.
Okay. It's
like pretty boring breakfast. For the first like half of the pandemic though, before work got really busy, I was having my wife and I, because she is a gigantic fan of pho.
Oh yeah, okay.
So we were making like noodle soup for breakfast.
Really?
Like 4 or 5 days a week.
Wow, I've never had that for breakfast. My wife loves pho as well, but that's like dinner for us.
Oh man, if you have even just the tiniest amount of a hangover, it's like the perfect breakfast. It's so good.
I can see that. That as a good hangover cure.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of, aside from the pho, what's your hangover cure? Like, how do you after a night?
It's pho and pizza. Those are the two things. Yeah, pho and pizza. So
together?
You usually have breakfast. No, not together. But those are the two meals that you eat the day that you're hungover. So you have pho for breakfast, and then you go pee like crazy, and then you fall asleep for a while, and then you wake up and you eat a pizza, and you watch a movie and fall asleep again.
I see. Do you have those nights as often as you used to in the past? Because I mean, I found myself, I used to be hungover at least 4 times a week back in the day.
Well, yeah.
Now it's like maybe on Saturday. Like I'll drink Friday all day, and then Saturday I wake up feeling like crap, but I don't have anything to do, so I just chill out.
If you are hungover 4 days a week, it means you're not drinking enough, because you should it's like, what's the point of sobering up?
Right. That's true. But that was the tour days where I could just drink every day.
Yeah. No, I would say that I have a hangover like 4 times a year.
Oh, okay.
Maybe a little bit more than that, but that's actually probably not fair, because I drank a lot at the beginning of the
pandemic.
I almost just called it the takedown, but of lockdown.
The takedown. The pandy is what I hear people in LA calling it. The pandy.
Oh, okay. That's one of the nicknames for one of my friends up in Seattle. Her nickname is Danger Panda, and so people call her Pandy.
Oh, okay.
And so that doesn't really work up here. But my tolerance is so much lower now that like I can have 3 beers and I'll have a hangover. So
yeah.
But a hangover is really just like I'm mildly grumpy and have a headache.
Yeah. I feel you. My tolerance has gone away. I used to do the tour thing, and then I also was working in beer for like 8 years. I was selling beer to bars. So I was drinking like 7-8 beers a day every day.
Oh, yeah.
It was nuts. Now on Fridays I do all the podcasting, and then I'll have like 3 beers, and then 3 or 4 beers, and then I'm garbage on Saturdays.
Yeah. Yeah.
So what is your beverage of choice? I mean, according to your videos, it's PBR, but like when you're drinking, what are you getting?
I like whiskey and rye.
Rye whiskey, okay.
That's the two like main, that's kind of what I gravitate towards. And to be honest, it's like if it's beer, it's mostly Coors Light these days.
Coors. Coors Light. I can't do Coors Light, but I do Coors Banquet.
Okay, sure.
The yellow.
I like the the CL Smooth or C minus is another term for them. Because they're just like they almost just taste like soda water.
Yeah. Yeah, and then they tell you to drink it nice and cold, and like make sure the mountains on the can are blue. That's because the colder it is, the less flavor you're going to get from it. So
exactly.
It's just like drinking water. It's like a LaCroix.
But also, if I'm being honest, I mean, I live mostly up in Tacoma these days.
Okay.
If I had my choice, I would probably drink. There's a brewery in town called Wayfinder, which is actually
I love those guys.
And they make a beer that's like based on a macro brew. You know,
okay.
It's based on like a domestic American beer.
Okay.
It's called Hell.
Yeah.
Which means,
Hell beer
is like, it's like a light American lager, but made with 5 ingredients instead of 35.
Sure.
And so it tastes really good, but it doesn't really give you that same sort of like, am I drinking formaldehyde?
Yeah, I recently had that beer actually because there's this thing called Knotfest. Knotfest is doing this beer box thing where they'll ship you a box of beers that are from metal breweries.
Okay.
And that was one of the beers in the box. Really good beer.
Yeah.
And I know they make beers with like bands as well. Like I know they did a Russian Circles beer. So.
Yes. And we actually I missed it because I was in Tacoma, but they just did the like brew thing of there's going to be a Red Fang one coming up in a little bit. They just put it in the kettle or whatever you call it.
Okay.
The pot.
But
yeah.
They put it in the fermentation tanks.
Yes, that's what you call it. But the super surprising thing, one of the times that I was at a meeting actually about that Red Fang beer at Wayfinder, and they had on one of their beer lists things, it was that Hell beer, but mixed with Stumptown coffee.
Ooh.
And I was like, that sounds really weird and bad. Like I can understand, dark beer.
Yeah.
But they were like, oh, you should try it. And it was awesome. Okay. It was so good. It was like maybe my favorite beer on the whole, out of the whole brewery.
Is that what the Red Fang beer is going to be then? Like a coffee lager? No? Oh, okay.
No, it's actually going to be, it's just going to be called Red Fang malt liquor.
Okay.
So it's going to be, he's got like gigantic cans and they're going to do, like,
paper bags,
a survivable. Oh yeah, that's a good idea. They're gonna do make a survivable malt liquor.
Okay, yeah, it should definitely be in a paper bag.
Yes, I'm writing that down actually.
Serve it in a paper bag.
I'm gonna write that down as something that they actually add.
Yeah.
To the and we can print our name on it or whatever.
Yeah, exactly. Get that little logo of the what is that with the dinosaur head with the.
It's a saber-toothed
tiger. Okay.
Yeah. I think they call them saber-toothed cats now.
I'm trying to remember what brewery I went to. I went to a brewery. I want to say a Mason Ale Works in San Diego or close to San Diego that has a giant sticker of that on their tanks.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
We sold giant stickers of that for a while.
Yeah, so
that's truck stickers.
That's probably where they
got it from us. Yeah, we sold. They were like a 3-foot tall sticker.
Okay, yeah, that might be exactly what's on that tank. So, but that's awesome.
Yeah.
I was gonna say. I mean, you guys definitely should have your own beer. Like you're one of the bands. Like a lot of bands are doing it, but you're one of the bands that I associate with having some good times and having a beer. So. It's good that you guys are doing that.
Yeah. I think that the other thing we should probably look into is like talking to the federal government, see if we can get like some of our own money. Get like a Red Fang branded money. And then just, but maybe just do like a $10,000 bill with that skull on there or whatever. And then they just send us a bunch of comps that we can then.
I thought you were going to say weed because when you said federal government, I was like, maybe you should get your own weed too. That's a thing that's happening. I haven't seen a lot of it with bands like the beer's doing, but I have a feeling with more
branded weed.
Yeah, with more states making it legal and recreational, I feel like that's going to be the next direction. Like all the bands are going to have their own weed, and
that makes sense.
Yeah.
It's legal in California, right?
It's legal in California. They just
so the whole West Coast.
Yeah, they just legalized it in New Jersey and New York, I think.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, I know Colorado, that's the first place I went that had legal recreation. Like I walked into a store and they were just like, "Oh, you have an ID?" I'm like, "Yeah, that's all I need."
Same here. My dad my parents live in Denver. So I was there over the holidays. And then as soon as the new year rolled around, we're walking to the store.
Do you still smoke as much as you used to or no?
Barely at all. I just can't. Yeah, especially with a full-time job, I'm just, my tolerance, same thing, is so low. I just can't take it anymore. I'm almost 50.
Well, I mean, I'm turning 40 this year, and I'm already like, shit, I need to start making changes.
I know. That's where it starts.
Yeah.
It's like, they're not lying that, things start changing at 40.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not just mental. I think it's real. It's
real physical, man. Like the beer drink, like you said, the only being able to drink 2 or 3 beers, I can smoke on the weekends, but I can't during the week. I feel like I only do it if I'm having a really bad day, like, super stressed out. I need to take one little hit to kind of like calm down.
Yeah.
But those days of like, let's smoke blunts, like I can't do that anymore.
Right.
Cool, man. Do you have any other like hobbies outside of work and music? Like, are you a gamer? Are you into wrestling? Are you into reading books? Like, what's your go-to relaxation?
It's like I read a lot of books right at the beginning, and I kind of got out of it, and I've started reading them again. I just read a book about called The Golden Spruce, which is about sort of like the logging industry up here in the Pacific Northwest.
Okay.
But I hadn't played video games in a long time, and then my son wanted a Nintendo Switch real bad.
Okay.
And he ended up getting, I think it was for his birthday, which is end of May. He got the new Legend of Zelda game, Breath of the Wild, it's called.
Yeah. That's a good one.
And I think I played it. I stretched it out. I was like, I'm going to just do every single thing. And yeah, I played it for like 6 months.
Nice.
So I got real deep. And it was, it's awesome. So generally I don't play a lot of video games, but this was like the perfect time to do it, to get back into it.
Sure. And I think the Switch is a good thing for touring bands too, because it's so compact.
Yes.
To take it with you.
Absolutely. And then, but the biggest thing is like just trying to go up in Tacoma, we live like across the street from a state park. So just trying to get down, go for a walk in the woods, go down to the water. Like this Puget Sound is right down there. We just bought some kayaks. So, trying to get out on the water as much as possible. And then cooking, like I'm just trying to learn how to make more things, like learning how to make pho at home. Trying to figure out how to make this. There's this soup that we had in Indonesia that was so delicious, and it's not spicy. My son can't tolerate spicy food, so I'm trying to figure out how to make that at home.
Do you know the name of it?
I can't quite get it, but it's called opor ayam.
Opor ayam, okay.
Yeah, it's just like a coconut milk based chicken soup, but it's awesome.
Awesome.
So yeah,
I love
cooking, a little bit of reading, walking. And then, some pretty hardcore Breath of the Wild sessions.
That's awesome. Yeah, I mean, I love cooking as well, and I feel like as we get older, that's one thing that you gotta focus on, because you got to be able to feed yourself and not depend on going and spending all of your money eating out.
Exactly, it's so much cheaper.
Yeah.
But like my friend, some friends of mine were talking, a couple months into the lockdown, and quite a few of them were like, yeah, I've been cooking, I've been making food at home, so I've lost like 20 pounds. And I was like, funny, because now that I'm making food at home, I've gained 20 pounds, because I was already like pretty good at it. But, I'm just like, oh, yes, I really want to go out for family Mexican tonight. So we can't do it. So I'm going to make it at home. I'm going to make Spanish rice. I'm going to, refried beans and whatever. I'm just like, I'm going to make cheese on a plate at home.
Nice.
And yeah, you do that enough, and next thing you know, you've put on your own COVID-19.
Yeah, because you get a little heavy-handed with the butter and the cheese.
Yep. My recipe for Spanish rice involves like a stick and a half of butter.
Yeah.
So I don't think it tastes right without it.
Yeah, it's just part of that's where the flavor's at. I mean, maybe you think about the keto diet. Somebody was trying to get me to do the keto diet. They're like, it's all butter and bacon and cheese. I'm like, that doesn't sound right.
Right. No.
That's what got me here in the first place.
Right. Yep.
Oh man, but that's cool, man. I love cooking too. So I've actually been looking into these those things where they ship you everything you need to make a meal.
Oh yeah.
And that's fine. It's not terrible. But it feels a little wasteful. Like everything has its own little packaging. Like here's 2 sticks of cilantro. Yeah.
But if it gets you to the point where like now you're more comfortable with ingredients that you would never have thought of before. I mean, my Brian has been doing that. I can't remember which one it was called, Blue something or
Blue Apron. Blue Apron,
I think that's what it was. Yeah.
Not sponsored by them, by the way.
Me neither.
Not sponsored by any of these food things. We tried out. Somebody gave us some of I think it was like Freshly or one of those things where it's just a bag with all the ingredients. And, it taught me new techniques that I wasn't like thinking about. They're like, oh, just get your sour cream, mix it with a little bit of water and lime juice. And
that's funny. That's something that's something that I already do.
I never did. I would just the glop of sour cream, like
right,
right in a burrito. But yeah, like little tiny things like that. They've taught me. I'm just like, that makes sense. Like before cooking the rice, cook a little bit of sesame seeds with the oil first, and then put in the rice with the water.
Right.
I'm like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
But anyway, I want to thank you for your time, dude. We've been talking for almost an hour. I highly recommend anyone that's watching or listening to pick up the record. The second I saw the video for Arrows, I ran to the website and bought one of the variants. It was like a neon colored variant of the record. Yeah. So I'm stoked to get it and hear the whole thing. But go to, what's the website? redfang.bandcamp.com. Is there a redfang.com?
Redfang.net.
.net. Okay, so redfang.net. On the social medias, at Redfang. Is that, or is it Redfang official?
I'm not the right person to ask for that.
Let me see if I can find it.
You go to redfang.net and they're all listed there.
Okay, redfang.net. Community. Okay, yeah, that works. Also, what do you have a social media that you use that you want people to like follow at all, that you want to plug?
Probably our Instagram, I guess, is the one that is probably the one that we are actually on the most.
Okay.
I should know this. I should know this stuff better, but
I should know this too.
I'm hopeless with social media.
Here we go. YouTube.
Just Google us.
Google them. They're on Facebook. They're on Twitter. Store.relapse.com is also a good place to pick up the record if you want the relapse variants that they do. They always do some really cool splatter, all kinds of crazy colors and shirts and all that. And then, are there shows? Did you have any shows booked?
There's talks.
There's talks.
Nothing has been announced yet, but just stay on the lookout. When is this? When this is airing?
A couple weeks. There's a backlog right now.
Yeah. That's good.
Yeah.
But yes, I think maybe by the time this is aired, I think actually the day that the record comes out is when
June 4th.
You can perhaps. Yeah, exactly. When perhaps you might expect to hear some announcement of something else. I
have a feeling you're going to play Psycho. Maybe, possibly.
There's a chance. You're saying there's a chance. No, yep. I'm excited to just get back to Psycho 2 as a whole. I love that festival. And but yeah, I'm excited to potentially see you guys live again, see a tour. Keep an eye out, guys. June 4th, pick up the record and look out for tour dates, hopefully. Yes, please.
Yes, please. All right, Aaron, thank you so much, man. I'm happy to have you back on the show. I don't even really count what we did at Psycho as part of the show. It was such a crazy chaotic thing that we did that, you know, I didn't even, I have them on my Patreon. I don't have them as part of the main part of the show. So if you do want to see Aaron and I talking while I was severely intoxicated and overwhelmed by everything that was happening, go to our Patreon page and check that out. But thanks again, Aaron. Have a good one.
Thank you.
All right. Cheers.
Take care.